You know, I'm just going to start every podcast with this fun fact. We're now at 98,000, which means 200 more downloads left till we get to 10K. I don't want to celebrate too early because I'm not that type of person, but I can assure you that within the next few days or week, I will be there. We will be there. We will all be there. And before we start with the uncontrollable tears that I'm about to get, I'll end it right here. No more tears. I was told twice by two different people this past week that I reminded them of director Kevin Smith. That is like the highest form of compliment for me, considering that he is one of my favorite directors, and I've actually met him 10 years ago, or over 10 years ago, during one of the comic book conventions that I attended. And this is the part where I think I should have had a podcast back then because I went deep and asked him about an obscure movie that not many people knew about except for the people that work behind the counter at Virgin Megastores. Y'all remember Virgin Megastores, right? No? Yes? No? No? If not, I'm about to take you on a nostalgia trip. Virgin Megastores had everything with the inception from 1976. Records, cassettes, CDs, movies, TV shows, games, clothes. It's basically what FYE is today. But what FYE never had was a listening station. Pause. Let's take you to a movie if you remember this movie. Remember Empire Records? Yes. Damn the man. Save the Empire. To this very day, every April 8th, to me, it will always be Rex Manning Day. Not on Rex Manning Day. Yes, Sexy Rexy for the win. The dude that was in the cult hit Grease 2, because that's how I remember him by Grease 2. That dude. You know the one with the cool rider, I guess. Yeah, that guy. So in the movie there are booths where you can listen to music before you buy. You get to test out the product, and if you like the music, you can buy it, or you can just walk away. Do what I did. Do what I did back in 2000. Just come out of the booth, walk out. Thanks for letting me listen for free. Bye. Sorry, not sorry. You get to test out the product, and if you like it, you can buy it. That's what Virgin Megastore was about. 16 substations with 16 different albums that came out that whole month, and you get to listen to it. I would go after work or days off, go listen to 16 different albums if you like. That's how I got to listen to Michael Jackson's Invincible before I bought it. Aaliyah's, one of her albums, Sade. Yes, said that right. 50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying. Eminem, Slim Shady LP, before it came when it came out when he became huge. Listen to that. Bought them. I always loved going there. I listened to all the music even though I wasn't going to buy anything from them. Eh, whatever. What was wonderful? Napster came in after all of that. And I didn't have to travel anymore. I could just download it, get in trouble possibly, listen to the whole album. Oh my god, Napster. Uh, remember burning CDs? Remember when there was a thing such as making mixtapes on cassette tapes, and at the right moment, right after the DJ speaks, and before the DJ interrupts the song, mixtapes right there, and then write it down. This is my mixtape. Okay, just give it to the person you like. That was me with burning CDs. As soon as I knew how to burn CDs, as soon as I knew how to make albums, uh, like the best freaking music playlist, I burn it, gave it to people. I sold it. Don't tell anybody, but I sold it. They gave me $2. I didn't want to get in trouble, but hey, I got $2 out of it. Anyway, um, God, I'm old. I'm aging myself. Uh, I already talked about cassettes and records and CDs and Napster and the the Gen Z people are like, what? It, imagine if iPod was the nano iPod was a little. Never mind, forget it. You wouldn't understand. Anyway, um, I didn't buy any CDs from there because Napster. But what I did buy from there was movies and some T-shirts. It's safe. It's safe to say that I bought all my Kevin Smith movies from there. Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Yeah, that was around. The store clerks knew me by name at that point. Hey, it's that one guy. What's up, man? What's going on? Hey, yeah, cool. Like, do you have this movie and this movie and this movie? Yeah, sure, it's right over there. Eh, but they suggested I buy two movies. As soon as they saw me with the clerks and the other movies, hey, you keep coming here and buying Kevin Smith movies. May I suggest two movies that you probably may never seen? They're obscure. One of them came out in 1996, Drawing Flies. Saw it already. It was okay. The other one came out in the year 2000, Vulgar. Um, I chose the latter because why not? They sold me on how dark it was and how I wouldn't think of Kevin Smith the same way again. Okay, side note, another side quest, to the side quest. There's so many side quests. I miss side questing on this show, so we're gonna bring that back. A lot of side quests. Do you know that Clown does the start of all his movies is based on this? I go home to watch it in order. Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Scream 3, because they're in there. Uh, James on Bob Strike Back. Um, yes, unfortunately, I saw Jersey Girl. I'm a big Kevin Smith supporter, even in the horrible movies. It happens. Um, there's even the comic book that's supposed to take place between Chasing Amy and Dogma. Chasing Dogma. And then I get to Vulgar. Ooh, man. Um, wow. It was dark. I wasn't expecting Kevin Smith to go dark, but it was dark. Uh, Last year, of course, I was suggested to watch Tusk during October, and in doing so, thought for sure Red State or Vulgar were the last time I would say these movies are fucked up. These movies are dark. But no. Tusk. Tusk was a different breed. Tusk. Um, I still don't understand why there's going to be a Tusk 2. And I think I'm having PTSD from just watching this. But I needed a happy movie to watch after that, and I did. Another Kevin Smith movie, of course. And that was Fanboys. Of course it was Fanboys. I'm part of that demographic. Needless to say that when this man came out with his podcast, or what he does, what does he call it? Smodcast? Needless to say, when this man came out with his Smodcast, I was on board. I would listen to it all the time. Anything this man has done, or the View SQ universe, I would watch or listen, or some form or another. I would. end up binging on them, just like I did with Comic Book Men. Yeah, that was a great show. I met Smith and Jason Mewes and interacted with them at a local comic book convention, but I didn't stay long enough to geek out or interact fully. Currently on the bucket list is to travel to Red Bank, New Jersey, to go to the Jay and Silent Bob Sneaker Stash comic book store and either meet them or get to meet Walt Flanagan and Brian Steve Cave Johnson. You know, the other guys on Comic Book Men, the ones that's like lowball you on comic books that you want to sell for $500, but they end up paying you $35. They're fucking assholes. I love them. I just want to meet them because of that. I want to see what they come up with on mine. Last week when I said I'm a podcaster, of course we talk with our hands. Kevin Smith is in that category. Kevin Smith does with his hands that I never would have guessed or imagined. So, yes, I'm adding that to the list of goals I have for this podcast. Interview one of my favorite directors, slash actor, slash comic book creator, slash podcaster, slash writer, Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith will one day be on my show. Welcome back, my Father's Behavior Squad, to another amazing episode full of, according to one person who never heard the show before and never met me, but, you know, full of cold vibes. So, I'm conveniently getting my blanket and hiding in my closet, but coming to you straight from under the apron. It's safe to say that I'm awake and fresh from having a long nap earlier. If you're one of the people that woke up at 4 a.m. to watch a premium live event on the Peacock Network, then more power to you. I kind of missed out on the whole hour of it. I know I did say I was going to wake up at 4. I tried taking a nap earlier, because that's what it was, a nap, from 1 to 4. I figured I'm going to stay, I'm going to try to get up at 4 o'clock, 4 a.m., and watch this freaking show, this premium live event. But it, plans changed, man. Plans definitely changed. I ended up sleeping till like 5:30ish. I missed 3 matches according to the Twitter folks. And I'm gonna go back and watch the entire show later, but I did end up watching the last 2 matches on the show as well as the segment. I ended up joining Alex Laha's live stream on Twitter, although she was streaming all over YouTube, Twitch, and countless other sites, so it might have been her kick. Don't know. But I was sitting there watching, listening to her, and watching, uh, what's it called? It's the Elimination Chamber. See, I'm still tired. I got some sleep, but, you know, hey, I even told her, we're podcasters. Of course, we're going to stay up at 4 a.m. to watch a premium live event for the content. And she was right. She was just like, yeah, that's true. It did happen. We did stay up till 4. From 4 till like 7 a.m. I mean, she did stay up from 4 to 7 a.m. I went from 5 to 7, but as soon as that was over with, I said, let's go. I'm going back to sleep because there was no way I was going to try to do this podcast on sleep. On this episode, though, we're moving right along with Glow on Netflix, Season 2, Episode 5. For those that are new, this is a recap and review episode of the TV series Glow on Netflix, a show about the gorgeous ladies of wrestling that was set in the 80s. I will have bits of trivia here and there with the additional interviews from the creators, directors, or stars of the show throughout the years. All in all, it makes for an awesome episode. If you haven't yet watched Glow, I suggest you do so and follow along as I recap and tell you what I thought of the episode. And if you haven't yet, check out episode 123, episode 123, where I talk about the first season and pilot episode of Glow if you want to go back and listen to it. Warning: the following episode of From Under the Apron's review of Glow Season 2, Episode 5 contains explicit language and depicts content containing sexual assault. Listener discretion is advised. Had to tell you that. Episode 5 is titled Perverts Are People 2, directed by Claire Scanlon. She directs single camera comedies for both network and cable. She started her career editing documentaries for PBS and the Discovery Channel. After supervising post and producing Last Comic Standing, she joined The Office in its fifth season. After directing The Office, Claire transitioned over to directing full time in 2013. She has directed 10 episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, 2 episodes of Saved by the Bell Reboot on Peacock, 4 episodes of the current TV series Miracle Workers, and 4 episodes of Glow, one of which was Season 1, Episode 3, The Wrath of Kuntar. Y'all remember that episode, right? The Wrath of... Anyway, it was written by Rachel Schuchert, who has written 2 other episodes of Glow. Season 1, Episode 5, Debbie Does Something, which was the episode where Carmen takes Melrose and Debbie to an indie wrestling show, and Debbie ends up sleeping with a wrestler. And the other being Season 1, Episode 7, Live Studio Audience, which was the episode where Debbie and Ruth seek the help of Carmen's family to learn how to wrestle properly. Synopsis: a request from the network puts the producers on edge. The wrestlers capitalize on their growing fan base, and Ruth receives a surprising invitation. Code intro opens up on what looks like after the next wrestling show. Sheila, the she-wolf, is outside looking at the fans with their signs wanting for Liberty Bell or Welfare Queen to come out, even having signs for them. As she walks away, a man dressed as Sheila stops in front of her to tell her she's his favorite wrestler. Sheila says she can see that and start walking away, but the man follows her to her car and asks invasive personal questions like if Sheila is her real name, are those her real teeth, and does she have a boyfriend? Sheila ignores him as she makes her way to the car, but he yells at her that he drove all the way there from Bakersfield to meet her, at least give him a hug. She gets in her Jeep and he yells if he can smell her neck. She is disgusted and drives away. Ruth comes out in her Zoya gear and everyone boos at her. Ruth laughs and yells at her in public. Somebody asks when her and Liberty Bell going to fight again. She stands tall and smirks while the theme music changes to dramatic fanfare and the Glow logo appears on the screen. Okay, a lot of things happening here. Um, I understand why they did the whole this part of the episode the way it is. Um, because you'll find out later. People do stay outside the arena waiting for wrestlers to come out, but there is security these days, so that's something like the Sheila scene does happen. It does happen, but there's security now. And then we have some of these people that go to airports and they just go to the airport to ask for autographs for these wrestlers when they show up. Like they're invasive. They ask crazy personal questions. They don't care. They even on Twitter, it's bad on Twitter. Um, but the fact that these people think that they have the right to ask these wrestlers that, even as to say, "Can I smell your neck?" That's so creepy. Like, oh man. Um, the man cosplaying as Sheila is played by actor and producer Whitmer Thomas. He is credited as Justin, although you don't hear the name at all throughout the entire episode or towards the end. Whitmer has been on shows such as Stonequackers, The Walking Dead, and Glow. And it is not only creepy when a fan follows you to the car, but also, don't ask questions and creepy. The next day, Sam, Bash, and Debbie are waiting outside of Klitnick's office where Sam seems offended they didn't offer him any water. Behind them are three posters for TV shows or movies. Sam is sitting in front of one with a mouse that looks like Tom and Jerry. Debbie is sitting in front of a chef, and Bash is sitting in front of one that looks like a Teen Beach show or movie. Sam thinks that because they didn't offer them any water, it must be bad news. Debbie says they never get bad news at a meeting. Bad news is a phone call. Sam says no fucking water, no fucking respect. Bash tells him that there is a water fountain by the men's bathroom. Click Nick comes out to greet them and tell them thanks for coming out on short notice, but the bad news is that Patio Town has withdrawn their sponsorship from the show due to the lawn chair breaking during Liberty Bell and Welfare Queen's match. Debbie says it was unplanned and they had no idea it was going to break like that. Klitnick also tells them that O-Town also had an issue with the PSA. Patrick O-Town had a teenage mother when he was born, although he is not an advocate for teenage pregnancy. Sam says they'll get another sponsor, but Klitnick continues to tell him the bad news that the ratings are soft. Sam yells at Klitnick that they are loved. Debbie asks why they are hearing about it now. Bash says they have fans. The girls get letters from their fans every day. Weirdos are waiting outside from them outside the stage door. Their audience is out there still. Klitnick tells them the good news is that Tom Grant, the head of the network, is starting to get interested in the show. Thinks it has real potential, especially with the new kidnapping storyline that Zoya and Liberty Bell kicked off. Mr. Grant wants to meet with the three of them in a few days and see what they have in mind going forward and what makes sense. Sam blurts out that he just wants to sell him the season they're already making. Glenn says they are going to love Tom. He's one of them. Here's their chance to impress him by turning him into a fan. Glenn leaves back to his office and Sam asks if he can have a bottle of water. Glenn tells him that there is a water fountain by the men's bathroom. Glenn leaves and all three producers are looking at each other with Sam eyeing them as if he wanted to say, "See, I told you so." No respect. Next scene, all the girls are hanging out by the hotel pool. Dawn passes everyone a box of fan letters, telling Tammy she's popular and Rhonda she's the second popular. Rhonda opens her letter and reads it, saying it's from San Diego. The letters reads that she may be the smartest woman in the world, but almost the most beautiful. He writes that he wishes he had gone to school so that she could hear her, so she could have her say, "ah," with this. She opens the letter again and looks at the Polaroid that he sent her, and it's a picture of his dingle dangle. It's an 80s dick pic, for goodness sake, with the words "Mom" tatted on his left thigh, which Melrose makes fun of. Everybody laughs. Rhonda continues reading the letter. He asks if she ever read anything by Immanuel Kant. He is his favorite, which was the philosopher of enlightenment. He was a doctrine of a transcendental idealism, which emphasizes the distinction between what we can't experience, the natural observable world, and what we cannot, sensible objects such as God and the soul. Kant argued that we can only have knowledge of things we can experience. Melrose scoffs and calls him an intellectual sexual predator. She then says Rhonda is so lucky. All she gets are letters from little girls who like their hair glitter. Cherry, who just came back and is soaking up the sun and reading a magazine, clears her throat. Melrose apologized for disturbing Cherry. She thought she was dead. Oof, tough crowd. Tammy says it's the most fan mail she's ever gotten, and all she had to do was completely degrade herself in public. Melrose does. Melrose stands up from her chair with an idea to capitalize on this moment to earn some extra cash. She says they're all the merch, and they're going to set up tables after the show to have a meet and greet with the fans. $10 for an autograph, 20 for a photo. Jenny says some of these guys sound like major pervs while reading her letter. Ruth seconds this idea not because of the money, but because these aren't just their fans. She says they owe them their gratitude and respect. Rhonda says perverts are people too. Ruth asks Bash if they can set up an autograph table after the show. He says yes, of course. Fan outreach. Everyone's excited. Bash asks Carmen for the key to her room. Carmen says they're on the table. Melrose, Rhonda, and the other girls look at Carmen, asking if they are sleeping together. She says no, he's just sleeping in the room, which Rhonda gets upset about. Carmen says he sleeps in her sleeping bag, which has Garfield on it and takes up the whole floor.
In a world where true crime meets the supernatural and the unexplained,
where true crime and chills go hand in hand.
Welcome to Total Conundrum, the podcast that explores the dark, the eerie, and the downright mysterious.
Join us as we embark on a spine-tingling journey through the mysteries that keep you up at night.
We're diving deep into true crime stories, uncovering the most baffling cases, and exploring the twisted minds behind them.
But we don't stop there. We're also exploring the paranormal, from haunted houses to cryptids and all the creepy things that go bump in the night. Get ready for some supernatural thrills.
And what sets us apart? Prepare for a dose of dark humor as we navigate through the creepy and bizarre.
We've got it all. Bone-chilling tales, banter, and mind-boggling conundrums. You won't know whether to scream or laugh.
So grab your favorite snack, turn down the lights, and join us for a roller coaster ride of true crime and the supernatural, sprinkled with a bit of comic banter.
Stay curious, stay captivated, and let's dive into the world of Total Conundrum.
Now available on your favorite podcast platform. Get ready to be captivated, creeped out, and cracked up with Total Conundrum.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
Next scene, Carmen goes to her room and opens the door while Bash runs towards the bathroom with a Speedo on to grab a towel and cover himself. Carmen tells Bash Rhonda's getting upset. Bash tells her that things are hard right now. The network is breathing down her neck. They just lost a sponsor. He tells her it's going to be fine, not to worry. He tells her he doesn't want to be at home right now. It's too lonely. And flops on the bed with a towel draped across his chest. Carmen asks about Florian. Bash says he wrote him a check that bounced. He told him it was good for it as soon as Bertie, his mom, releases his bi-monthly allowance in 5 weeks. Carmen is confused that the bi-monthly means every 2 weeks, right? Bash sits up and confesses that they got into this big fight. Florian got really mad and he stormed out and yelled at Bash, telling him that he was completely solipsistic. Jesus Christ, really? Solipsistic. Basically extremely selfish or self-centered. Bash explains that it's completely insane because he hates being alone. Okay. Carmen says he needs to talk to him. Bash says he doesn't know where he is. He kept calling the house. Nobody answers. Carmen asks if he has any other friends or somewhere he might be staying at. Bash says he has this one friend who tends the bar at this place in Hollywood and goes there and on his night off. Carmen suggests to go and see if they can find him at this Hollywood bar. Next scene, Sam, Debbie, and Bash have a producers meeting with Sam, tells them to pretend he was a yuppie head of a network in Anaheim who sinks the sunrise and sets in his own asshole. What are Bash and Debbie going to pitch him to make him feel like less of a bougie douchebag? Bash suggests to get Ruth in since it was her idea to run with the kidnapping story. Debbie says it's a classic soap plot, and she got this. She gets up from the couch and runs an idea. In the kidnapping story, the next step is for the grieving mother to make a public plea for her child's safe return, and then they cut to a remote cabin in the Montana wilderness, where we see a hermit realizes this is his long lost wife and child, who he forgot about because he was in a fire, suffered amnesia. Bash gets confused and looks over at Sam. Cut to outside the office in the middle of the ring. Ruth is sitting on the ropes looking up at the office and staring at Debbie, who faintly says that her son, who she gave birth to after her going away, falls in love with her long lost daughter. Back in the office, Debbie's trying to tell the story. Uh-oh, she has to stop their wedding. She's already pregnant with their incest baby. Sam stops her. Like, what are you doing? And says the wrestling show and not guiding light. Debbie calls Sam dismissive. Sam asks if that's really what she wants to go with. That's the longest he's ever let a woman who he's not sleeping with talk uninterrupted. You're welcome, it's an honor, but that's not the show. Bash says they could do a loser leave town match or a handicap 3 against 1. That's a classic, or a wedding. People love it in the ring wedding. Sam claims they're all girls. Who they're going to marry? Each other? Bash says that's a good point. Well, in September 2002, the team of Chuck Palumbo and Billy Gunn, wrestlers, did a same-sex marriage segment on an episode of Monday Raw. Chuck proposed life partnership to Billy, and Billy accepted. Their ceremony was aired on the September 12th episode of SmackDown. During commitment ceremony, Gunn and Palumbo revealed that the ceremony was merely a publicity stunt that had gone too far, and they admitted they were strictly hetero. Eric Bischoff, who had disguised himself as the priest officiating the wedding and 3-minute warning from Raw, then led an attack on Stephanie McMahon, the general manager of SmackDown, who was also present at the ceremony. Following this incident, Rico, the manager of Gunn and Palumbo, defected to Raw and managed 3-minute warning. Billy and Chuck remained a team, turning face and dropping all facets of their gay sweetheart gimmick. The Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, GLAAD, which had consulted with WWE on the storyline and helped the angle secure mainstream media coverage, denounced WWE for securing GLAAD's existence under false pretenses. The WWE lied to us 2 months ago when they promised that Billy and Chuck would come out and wed on their air. The gimmick would be in sharp contrast to then current WWE performer Darren Young, legitimately coming out over a decade later to TMZ, which was received with open arms and also led to other LGBT wrestlers in mainstream wrestling, including Sonya Deville, Anthony Bowens, Nyla Rose, Sonny Kiss, Kiera Hogan, and Mercedes Martinez, to name a few. April 18, 2022, WWE almost went there again, and the segment still talked about to this day. The segment in question featured the storyline wedding of on-screen WWE couples Akira Tozawa and Tamina, and Reggie and Dana Brooke. A culmination of a plot focused around the WWE 24/7 Championship, with R-Truth serving as the officiant. The couples played a game of musical chairs, so to speak, switching partners multiple times after being asked if anyone objected. One of those switches saw the four paired up in same-sex couples, while Tozawa and Reggie had varying reactions to their pairing. Tamina and Brooke shared a smile and held hands as the crowd in-ring wedding parties cheered. Among those cheering were out of LGBTQ pro wrestlers Kayla Sparks and Eden Von Engelen, both of whom were in the ring as extras portraying members of the wedding party. That moment is when R-Truth let the PG meme line loose, adding, "Y'all are gonna get me fired." The death glare delivered by Tamina following the line sums up the collective reaction. Next scene, Sheila walks into her room eating from a bag of Dunkin' Donuts where Ruth is trying out different variations of her autograph. She tells Sheila she thought about using the Cyrillic alphabet but then thought that would be pretentious. She just wants something to stand and think they seem to have forgotten all about her. Ruth tells Sheila the producers are having some big network meeting for the rest of the season and didn't even talk to her about how to play through the baby sting. Sheila continues to stare and munch louder. Ruth asks why she's being hostile. Sheila says she's not being hostile, she doesn't want to sell her pictures to a bunch of strangers. Ruth tells her she's on a TV show, there's an audience, this is a part of the job. Sheila opens her trunk and reveals the letters she gets that they all have a million questions. Where are you from? Do you have brothers and sisters? Is that your real name? What did you do before Glow? Ruth says they want to know more about her. Sheila tells Ruth there's a man that dresses up like her. It's demeaning. Ruth tells her he likes her. They all like her. She has fans. What does she think would happen? Sheila says she doesn't like people staring at her. Ruth tells Sheila that after 5 years of walking around Los Angeles in a fur corset, she thinks she would be used to that. The phone rings. Ruth gets up from her chair and answers it. After a minute of talking, she hangs up and Ruth explains to Sheila that it was the secretary for Tom Grant, the head of the network, who's a big fan of Zoya and wants to meet the next night for dinner to talk about her future on the show. Sheila tells Ruth she's really happy for her. We will get back to this moment of the show after doing some deep diving. Next scene, Carmen ran to take Bash to the bar that Florian's supposed to be at. Bronski beat by small town boys playing while half naked men are dancing around. Carmen reads the name of the bar as Shenanigans, thinking that it must be an Irish bar like Bennigan's. Oh, honey. They all look at the name of the bar, a half naked man dancing in a cage in one corner, and a lot of other men walking around with drinks. Bash realizes this is a gay bar. Rhonda says she loves the song playing and asks Carmen to dance with her. Bash looks confused as he looks around the room. He goes to the bar asking for Eric. One of the bartenders calls for Eeyore and tells him he's being paged by Malibu Ken. Eeyore, who looks like he has a curly wig, is played by Christina Koa and is known for Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, Halo, Silo, Dynasty, The Rookie, Will and Grace, Lethal Weapon, Bounty Hunters, Pitch, Her Story Show. He's also done voice work as Ben Alvarez on the Far Cry 6 video game and the Far Cry Rise of the Revolution podcast, as well as the Lethal Lit podcast. Eeyore asks Bash what he can do for him. Bash says he's looking for a friend of his, Florian. Eeyore says he must be Bash. Florian talks about him all the time. Bash adds that he's his butler. Eeyore has that, yeah, I don't believe you, look, and tells Bash he hasn't been at the bar in a few weeks, but he did leave his tab open. Bash pulls out his wallet to pay for the tab, but Eeyore says he's just kidding as he puts his hand on top of Bash's wrist. Eeyore offers him a drink instead, and Bash says he's actually not thirsty now or ever, as he walks away to meet up with Carmen and Rhonda, who are dancing on the dance floor with the other men. Bash tells Carmen that Florian is not there and suggests they should leave. Carmen asks to stay as there will be a Pink Flamingo look-alike contest, and she wants to see everyone dressed as a flamingo. Okay. Bash says he's leaving, so he gives Carmen some money for a cab ride home. Before he leaves, Carmen assures Bash they will find Florian and it will be okay. So honestly, the camera makes it look like he's confused, Bash, and he's not liking being there. You could take it as he's naive about it, or you could take it as he knows it's a gay bar. He knows Florian is gay. He's known about it, and he's looking around the bar to see if he recognizes anyone. But he doesn't. He doesn't. He also doesn't like getting hit on by anyone except for Florian. Obviously, Florian, who he and him have a special relationship. It's why he didn't tell Florian to stop brushing his shoulder when he had the yellow jacket during last season. Also, Carmen, really? Pink Flamingo? You don't know what the Pink Flamingo is? In 1972, It's a 1972 American black comedy film by John Waters. It is part of what Waters labels the Trash Trilogy, which also includes Female Trouble in 1974 and Desperate Living in 1977. The film stars the countercultural drag queen Divine as a criminal living under the name of Babs Johnson, who was proud to be the filthiest person alive. They are having a Divine look-alike contest and not real flamingos. Oh my god, Carmen. Oh my god. Hey, it's Evo. We're gonna get back to the episode you're listening to, but first, let me tell you about Dark Fate Creations. Dark Fate Creations are candles that are vibrant, colorful, marble tops, amazing, mouth-watering fragrances, fueled by lovely braided cotton wicks. Paper threads woven into every cotton wick for a clean, romantic, slow, and consistent burn. Each candle is unique from the next as they are hand mixed and hand poured right in Grass Valley, California. They use only coconut and soy waxes for a safer, cleaner, and longer burn time. That's almost 72 hours. That's like binging on all 130 episodes of the podcast. All fragrance blends have been heavily researched. Dark Fate Creations not only care about the look, fragrance, and quality of their candles and their other products, but also the effects they have in their customers' homes. So go to darkfatecreations.com. The link will be in the show notes.
Do you like to drink wine? Do you like to talk about your favorite things and rank them in categories? Then you have come to the right place. Welcome to the Sip List, a podcast where, you guessed it, we drink lots of wine and make lists of all our favorite things. My name's Amanda, and each week my guest and I will review a favorite wine we're drinking, or if they aren't cool enough to drink wine, then the lame beverage of their choice. And then we will rank our top 5 favorites of different things in different categories. You can expect to hear all kinds of things, from favorite horror movies to favorite Disney characters, favorite true crime books to favorite women in history. The episodes will be diverse, but they will always include wine, lists, and lots of laughs. You can find the Sip List on social media. On Facebook, just search the Sip List Pod. Be sure to like the page and join the private Facebook group for the most up-to-date info on everything that's happening. You can also find us on Instagram at the Sip List Pod. I'm really excited to bring you guys some fun and amazing content, and I hope you'll join me on this journey. And until next time, whenever life is tough, just keep sipping.
Next scene, the reason why I put up that warning label at the start of the show, Ruth goes to meet with Tom Grant, the head of the network, where she thinks they have dinner reservations, but instead the maitre d'hotel tells her he's in bungalow 2. Did I get that right? Matro d'hotel? Matro. I'm not going to stand. Matter d'hotel. Maitre d'hotel. Oh my god. The waiter? The host? What is he? He tells her he's in bungalow 2. Ruth explains she came to have dinner with Mr. Grant, but the host explains to her that Mr. Grant always takes his dinner meetings in his room and gives her directions on where to go. Maître D. Ruth walks over there looking at the beautiful landscape. She arrives and reluctantly knocks on the door. Glenn Klitnick opens the door and she is happy to see him there. She walks into the room and Glenn introduces Ruth to Tom. She's respectful as she shakes his hand and calls him Mr. Grant. He begs her to please call him Tom. He apologizes for the confusion, but he just flew in from New York and he is too beat to face the restaurant, so he wanted to have dinner there. She smiles and asks if she likes white Zinfandel wine. Next scene, Keith and Cherry are in their room. He is kissing up on his wife, happy she's back. He asks if they're going to do anything. She tells him that after this long, he should be grateful she's still looking at him. He tells her that if he got excited when his woman was not in the mood, what kind of man would he be? He asks what's wrong. She says she is trying to figure out what she's doing with her life, living in the hotel, waiting to see what Sam is going to do with her, while Laverne and Shirley are cracking jokes about her hair. Um, I'm thinking it's Don and Stacy being Laverne and Shirley, right? Okay. Keith sits up on the bed and tells her he's calling in for reinforcement. He picks up the phone and fake calls someone telling them he's feeling a little lonely tonight and wondering if they could send over some black magic. He hangs up the phone. Cherry, in a Caribbean accent, says black magic might come out tonight for just one night only, and they start messing around again. She dances on top for him. She dances for him on top of the bed. I for sure thought black magic was code word for sandwich. A sandwich. Yes, a sandwich. How I Met Your Mother reference right there. But back at the meeting between Ruth and Tom, they are talking and drinking wine still. Tom asks how someone so talented as her could go so long without work. Who's her agent? Ruth tells her she don't have one, and he already knows this because what agent in her right mind would let her anywhere near that contract they all signed? Tom and Glenn laugh. Glenn reminds Tom he told him she's a pistol. Ruth imitates gunfire, and Tom holds on to his chest. That reminds me of a Marilyn Monroe movie for some reason. Like, oh, yeah. Okay, back to this. Tom stares over at Glenn Klitnick, who says maybe he should order dinner. He gets up from the couch and walks out of the room to grab a couple of menus for them from the restaurant and says he'll be right back. Ruth watches uncomfortably as Glenn leaves and Tom says she's doing Chekhov in scene class one day and the next day she's on a women's wrestling show on the local network. Ruth tells him he is the best. Ruth tells him this is the best job she's ever had, and they got some really exciting stuff coming up that Sam, Debbie, and Bash are working really hard for. Tom interrupts her and says officially he wants to hear all about that, but he just can't imagine that this is quite what she had in mind for herself. Ruth says nothing in her life is what she had in mind for herself. She's been acting pretty much her whole life, and it's always another audition, another meeting, another year waiting for someone to give her permission to do the thing she wants to do. But she's finally getting to do something. But she's finally getting to do something, and it feels different. She feels different, strong, and in control. Tom says he could use some of that as he moves closer to the couch and wants her to show him a wrestling move or two. She reluctantly tells him it doesn't really work if both people aren't properly trained. He says he works out every morning. He grabs her hand and places it on his abs. Ruth is uncomfortably icky as he tells her no flab on his body. Tom asks if she can place him in a headlock. Ruth laughs awkwardly. They get up and she places him in a headlock and calls him a stupid American in her Zoya accent. As she sinks it in, he tries to motorboat her chest. She realizes what he's done and is uncomfortable. He grabs her hand and gets right behind her, whispering in her ear and sniffing her neck while growling. He pushes her and tells her she's too fast for him. Ruth suggests he must be tired and she should go. He asks what kind of guy would he be if he let her go back to the Roach Motel without a hot meal and a good bath. He says he's going to check on the jacuzzi jets in the tub to see if they work as advertised. Ruth asks about Glenn. Tom says not to worry about Glenn, he's not coming back, and laughs as he walks away. She hears the water running. She grabs her purse and runs out the door. She has a long walk from the bungalow to the restaurant, and you can see it in her face. She is upset and in tears, leaving. Deep dive on this moment right here. This episode came out in 2018 at the height of the Me Too movement. Earlier in her, earlier in her, oh my God, earlier in the hotel room, Ruth was talking to Tom's secretary, and there was a slight reference to that as she said the words "Me Too" before she hung up the phone. Many have said they knew where this was going as soon as she said those words. Jackie Strauss of The Hollywood Reporter wrote about this back in June 2018. She interviewed creators Liv Flahiv and Carly Mash, who was always planned to highlight the harassment women in 1980s Hollywood faced. The pair say they were emboldened to take the storylines further post-Weinstein. It felt important for us, for Ruth, who felt a little bit naive of how the industry worked, to have a reality check. Mensch tells the Hollywood Reporter about the ripped from the headlines moment in the 5th episode. Much like the actual set of Glow, the show within the show's set is also female dominated and in a much safer space than many others at the time. In a meta way, our set there is somewhat of an environment bubble where the women are in charge of their own narratives. Ruth can even give input with the director, Sam Sylvia, played by Mark Maron. Putting her in that situation felt authentic. Flahev adds to THR, we had talked prior to the Harvey Weinstein news breaking about wanting to do something about sexual harassment. I'm going to call it SA. Because we have the girls in an environment now where they were part of the network. The network was run by men, and there was a new power dynamic we could introduce if we wanted to. We were definitely emboldened to go further with our story once the Weinstein news broke. But showing that side was always in the foundation for us, given that the story we were telling of actresses in 1985. Back to the show, Bash is outside of his mother's house. Gary, the butler, opens the door and meets Bash, who asks about his mom. He says he just left the Squaw Valley with her very rich, very old boyfriend, Gil. Bash asks if she's dating. Gary ignores the question and asks Bash if he would like to come in. He does. They go to the kitchen and they eat some type of spicy alphabet soup dish. Bash asks how long has he worked for the family. He says 18 years in December. Gary asks if he's okay. Bash says he's having problems with his butler. It's a small cash flow issue. He just doesn't have the money to pay for Florian. His check bounced. It wasn't the first time he got mad and took off. He just needs to make good for him. Maybe give him a few months in advance so that he'll come home. Gary says Florian stopped by a few days ago saying he was taking some time off. He asked Bertie for money for some travel expenses. Gary sent him to Bertie's study and he left with a check. Bash says wow as he continues to play with his soup with the spoon. Gary asks if Bash wants him to help. He would be happy to help him with his bookkeeping. Bash asks Gary if he thinks Bertie would sponsor his wrestling show. Gary says he will talk to her. Next scene, Bash goes to his old room with a folded towel in his hand. He places it on the dresser and turns the light on. The camera pans over to his closet, which is filled with posters of wrestling events. He walks over there and the door flips over to reveal a mirror with pictures of all his favorite wrestlers. Top left corner, he has a picture of Bruno Sammartino winning the WWF World Championship. Right next to that is Rocky Johnson stretching one of his opponents. Right above that picture, superstar Billy Graham posing with his WWF Championship. Right next to that is a drawing of Gorgeous George, which we saw in Season 1, how much of a fan Bash was of him. In the middle of Rocky Johnson in the Gorgeous George picture is Ivan Koloff wrestling Bob Backlund. He also has tickets of events pinned on that wall. He looks at himself in the mirror and pretends to do what every little boy has done in front of the mirror their entire life and poses just like the wrestlers. He folds his sleeves up and poses just like superstar Billy Graham. He looks around the mirror at all the wrestlers and giggles just like I would. He takes out a box from underneath his bed, looks at it. There's a bunch of old newspaper clippings, more wrestling events, and an autographed picture of himself and Florian when they were kids posing with what looks like Ivan Koloff, and writes, to Sebastian and Flora, stay honest, your friend, the judge. Alright, so 1970s wrestling fans, am I mistaking this picture with someone else? Is this Ivan Koloff or some other wrestler actually named the Judge? Let me know. Send me a message at fromundertheapron@gmail.com or just write in.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa.
And I'm Dawn.
And if you've ever watched a TV show and thought to yourself, oh my god, that season finale plot twist was absolutely bonkers.
Or seen a movie and thought, wow, I need to talk to somebody about this train wreck immediately.
Then we think you'll fit right in with our podcast, I Hate It, Let's Watch It. We watch TV shows like Riverdale and Emily in Paris.
And movies like Deep Water, Killer Sofa, Rubber, and Deadly Illusions. And we give them the total rinsing they deserve.
It's basically group therapy for movie masochists. So come check us out wherever you stream podcasts.
Movies and feelings. Pop, pop! Bring Your Own Popcorn is a podcast that dives into people and the movies who love them. Let us preach to your choir or stoke your ire as we spiral down memory lane with cult classics, Jurassics, and other genres that rhyme with traffic. What we lack in education, we make up for with comedy, compassion, and camaraderie. I'm your host, Mixtape Majesty, inviting you to join me and an assortment of wonderful guests on fine podcast apps everywhere. Bring your own popcorn.
Next scene, the next day in Sam's office, he's setting up the storyboard for the meeting. Devi's helping him set up. Sam tells Devi that these network guys know detail too small, no questions too stupid. Devi's nervous, trying to rip the edges off the storyline that she printed overnight. Sam tells Devi maybe she should smoke. It works for him. Sam calms her down, saying they're ready. It's going to be okay. Bash finally shows up and he tells him the good news that Birdie might be coming on board as a sponsor. Might be being the key word here. He tells him that Gary says that she's very much, but not much, not uninterested. Sam stares in confusion. Devi's still working on the edges. Bash suggests they should take his car because it's the most impressive. The phone rings. Bash answers it and it's the network. Bash tells them they're just on their way out the door, but he has a troubled look on his face. After that, Devi is waiting, sitting on the bleachers, smoking a cigarette, disappointed. Ruth comes in, feeling depressed. Devi asks what Ruth is doing there so early. Ruth answers that she likes to have some time alone in the space before everyone gets there. She asks if she's supposed to be at this big network meeting. Devi says they have a big network phone call instead, moving the show to a new time slot at 2 a.m. Ruth says, but they're a kids show. Kids don't watch TV at 2 a.m. Debbie says nobody watches TV at 2 a.m. That's the point. They're burying them. They're going to be canceled. Ruth says this might have something to do with her. Debbie tells her their show didn't get shit canned because they wouldn't hear her stupid ideas, and this is about her wrestling over the fate of her family's cherry orchard. Apparently, the only people watching them are standing on the parking lot right now. Yeah, can't say that out here. Apparently, the only people watching them are standing on the parking lot right now, licking pre-stuff into Sheila's costume. Ruth blurts out Ruth blurts out that she had a meeting with Tom Grant the night before. They were in a hotel room. It was dinner, but then it wasn't dinner, and Glenn was there, but he left. Tom said he wanted to talk about her career, which they did, but he also wanted to wrestle, literally and figuratively. Devi understands what that means, that she's about to cry and feels sorry for her. She asked, what did she do? Ruth says she left. He went to the bathroom and she made a run for it. Devi says she can't believe this. Ruth says it was terrible. Devi asks, how can Ruth be so stupid? The head of the network comes on to Ruth and she runs away. Ruth asks if she was supposed to have stuff with him. Debbie says no, she's supposed to make him think that you might have sex with him, or that she desperately wants to, but only if only she wasn't on her period, or had a fiance, or have an extra set of teeth where her vagina should be. Teeth the movie! Reference. Love that. Even though it's 1985, Teeth the movie came out in the year now. I love it though. In a horrible way. Teeth is being referenced to in 1985. Alright, whatever. It's just me. Ruth yells she's not that kind of person. Debbie asks what an actress? That is just how this business works. Men try stuff and you have to pretend to like it until you don't have to anymore. Ruth claims that she shouldn't be that way. Debbie says no, it shouldn't, and women should get to direct and not be washed up by the time they're 30, and she should have gone to eat a piece of her own wedding cake without worrying about how many minutes of Jane Fonda videos it was going to take to work it off, but that's the way it is. She points at Ruth, saying she doesn't make it better by flouncing some Victorian schoolmarm every time some sleazeball puts his hands on her knee. She's taking 20 people down with her. Ruth yells, so you just let them do whatever they want with you? You're not exactly a guiding feminist principle. Debbie says life has compromises. Congratulations, Gloria Steinem. The one time Ruth keeps her legs shut and they all get screwed. Debbie walks away from Ruth, who is sad. Final scene at the meet and greet where everybody is supposed to be signing autographs. Rhonda seen hitting a big book on a guy's butt and tells him he has detention. Tammy signs a stuffed animal. The Ozone Sister signs some autographs. Machu Picchu is holding a kid in a headlock. Ruth comes in full Zoya costume and watches everybody having fun. Sheila sits next to Jenny and places her pictures on the table. The first person there is the guy that's dressed as Sheila, Justin. She signs her autograph and he tells her she's his favorite. One more shot of Ruth staring at all the girls having fun and quite possibly having the unfortunate task of telling them that they might be canceled because she didn't sleep with the head of the network. I Know What Boys Like But the Waitresses is the song that plays as the credits roll out. For Flahiv and Manage the Power to Harassment episode was the honest confrontation between their two starring characters, which lasted nearly 5 minutes. Back to the Hollywood Reporter article, Jackie Strauss writes, what was most complicated and interesting for us was that conversation between Ruth and Devi, says Flahiv of the scene, which was written and directed by women, Reiko Shokart and Claire Scallon, respectively. The event felt like the event and the conversation felt like the thing to grapple with. The conversation between these two women who were both in the industry, who both had different perspectives and experiences, who both had a different experience with success, or lack thereof, that was the meat of it for us. Mensch add, and we wanted Debbie to land punches. We didn't want her to be kind of a straw man and for Ruth to be right and for Debbie to be wrong. It felt important to us to hear the full conversation about how people think about these type of events. When Gilpin, Debbie, first read the script, she says she immediately balked at having to be on that side of the argument. At first, I had a visceral negative reaction. I was so disappointed in her. I thought, oh God, we're making her evil. And I was really angry with Debbie, Gilpin tells THR. But then I realized that her reaction isn't about Ruth at all. She's thinking only about her own experience and feeling shame and regret and vulnerability. In Gilpin's mind, Debbie would have reacted very differently if she had been the one in the bungalow instead of Ruth. Debbie wouldn't have walked out. She imagines of her character. I don't know that she would have had screwed with the guy, but she would have teased him into thinking there's a world in which it could have happened so that she didn't upset the boss. What the conversation between Debbie and Ruth shows to her is how women didn't support each other then in the way they do now. Of course, the main problem is men behaving as predators, but something that is unique to our time now is women becoming more vocal and supportive when they speak out, whereas in 1985, that wasn't the case. Much discussion sensitivity went into getting the harassment scene right, given the layers of complexity the show was extending to portray. To hear Bree tell it, Ruth wasn't trying to be a hero in the moment. Ruth's not a hero for leaving. I feel like she leaves because she's afraid and doesn't know what to do, Bree tells THR. What we're showing is the slippery slope of how easily a woman can find herself in that position. Someone who's smart, strong, and level-headed can find themselves at the mercy of a really devious person. That precarious position is why Ruth didn't necessarily expect to be applauded by Debbie, but she expected sympathy and doesn't get any of that, says Bree. What you see in the scene is one actress' resentment toward another actress not following the rules that she had been made to feel like she had to follow her whole career, Bree explains. And in that way, Ruth is really naive when it comes to the entertainment industry, having had zero success as an actress. She really hasn't found herself in difficult positions very much of the time. So you're also seeing the learning curve of someone gaining even menial success for the first time being confronted with that kind of behavior. Both Ruth and Debbie fight for a seat at the table this season, with Ruth pushing to direct and Debbie fighting for equal pay and her producer role. But similar to that differing point of view on how to personally deal with predatory players in Hollywood, their quest for power are also staggering. They're fighting for very different things, explains Mensch. Debbie feels empowered that with both her career and her status and how much the show needs her to ask for a seat at the table, Ruth is trying to find some type of creative outlet for herself. She's directing because someone needed to step up and because she loves the show. She's not fighting for a seat at the table as much as if you block her one place, she'll try another place to try to put her creative energies. And if those differing personality traits that line the rest of the twosome second season path, Ruth has a lot of opinions and she's only just daring to learn how to share them. Whereas Debbie is more along the lines of believing she deserves a spot. And that's going to do it for the episode. We will be back next week with another episode review of Glow on Netflix. Or maybe I'll surprise you with another show about wrestling. You'll just have to come back and listen. As always, follow us on our socials to support us from Under the Apron on Instagram, the Threads, YouTube, Apron_stories on the Twitter. Follow me and join my live streams on TikTok at Evolution of a Geek, where you will also find me doing the unedited version of the podcast that will then be posted on YouTube. Listen to us on Apple, Spotify, or any other audio media you can listen to podcasts on. More info and the links where you can listen or watch in the show notes. Don't forget to rate us and leave us a review. And if you feel want a little bit more, support us on the TikTok at Evolution of a Geek by subscribing. Join the Follow Us Behavior Squad and show up to the live stream to watch, and I will shout you out at the end of every episode like Menace Smiling, Little Linguini, Forever Jane, Brandy, Kimmy, Little Miss LB, Miniature Mommy, Age of Shadow 666, Angela Carmona, Stir Boy Flores, Squirrely Bree, Sandra Woodbury, Quick Draw, Mike Wes 92, Sahara Darkness, E Bunny 06, Half-Sized Heather, Lisa, Toasted Bagel, Moss Queen, This Girl, Casey M, Not JJ, Rabbit, Tiffany the Fence Girl, Aquarius TV, Tawny 73, Princess in the Herb, Cheshire Cat Smile, I said it, Cloudy November, Undercover Kit Kat, Trafficking Melodies. Yo, listen to Trafficking Melodies on Spotify. They're an awesome band. Definitely worth the listen. You'll love it. Take it from me. I haven't steered you wrong, have I? And finally, Pleasure Passport 3.0. If I haven't said it yet, I always say this at the very end. Get 20% off on adult toys when you enter discount code EVO at pleasurepassport.shop. That's discount code EVO at pleasurepassport.shop. Link will be in the show notes. Thank you guys for supporting the podcast. Join the live TikTok live, subscribe or hang out and watch the live and get your name shout out. Other podcast stories that you heard in this episode. Send us a message with your favorite wrestling stories, questions, comments, or requests at our email. It's from undertheapron@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, joining live, and being a huge part of the community. Tell your friends. Join us next time for more behind-the-scenes stories, movies, and TV show reviews when we come to you from Under the Apron. I'm Evo. I'm proud of y'all, and I love your faces. Cold vibes dismissed.